Hey guys, Civilord here, back again with another review. Well, technically, but not in the traditional sense, but we'll get into all that in just a moment here, because today we'll be taking a look at the Motel Masters of the Universe Origins vintage head variants of He-Man and Skeletor. Now, before we get into the meat and taters of this quote-unquote review, a little bit of explanation as to why I'm doing this review a little bit different. Mostly because we've already seen most of these figures, if not 100%, then 90 to 95%, because these are essentially reissues of both He-Man and, of course, Skeletor from Wave 1 of the Masters of the Universe Origins line, but in He-Man's case, he came on the 40th anniversary card with the cross-sell featuring Mantenna, Pighead, 2000X He-Man, and 2000X Skeletor. There's actually a little bit more going on with him than you might think. And then as far as the Skeletor goes, he was on the card with Fisto, Merman, the quote-unquote 2000X Evelyn, and Faker. Now, despite that, I imagine you can get both of these guys on either of those cards. It's just what I got because I ordered these from Amazon because they were never released at retail, at least not as far as I know. Maybe places like the Motel store and secondary retailers got these, but as far as, Targets and Walmarts and anything in between, never seen them there. I don't even think Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth and places like that got these, which is very odd because they have literally everything else when it comes to Origins. So a little strange. Not quite sure why these didn't hit retail like the other two. Maybe it's because the first releases sat on the pegs for so long and wound up going on clearance after a while. Maybe that's why they didn't make it to retail, but who knows? The Lord works in mysterious ways, whoever that may be, and maybe that's got something to do with it. Either way, though, getting into the thick of it, let's actually move He-Man out of the way here. And since I'm a Skeletor guy, we're going to focus on Skeletor for the most part. Now, one thing to note about this Skeletor is he came out right around the same time as Webstore, who had, as we all know, very weak knee joints. And this guy was no exception. His knee joints are very weak. So he actually has the 2000X Skeletor's legs, so if the blues don't match, that's why. I think they're relatively close. I can't really tell if they are the same or not, but at any rate, bringing in our first release Skeletor, of course with the Battle Armor Skeletor's head here, you can see that these are essentially the same exact figure, albeit with maybe a little bit more vibrant of a blue, and a little bit deeper of a purple on the vintage reissue. And on the first release, the blue is a little bit more dulled down, and the purple is a little bit brighter shade of purple. That said, the face is pretty much the same. I don't notice any difference between the yellows. Maybe the yellow on the vintage head is a little bit brighter than that of the alt head from the Battle Armor figure, but essentially these are exactly the same. The main difference being, setting our Wave 1 Skeletor down and this Skeletor down, the main difference being, for those of you who did the head swap with the Battle Armor figures, that is the power swords. Now, the first releases came with the half swords with the connectors on the inside, and the vintage head releases come with the full power swords. Now, these are the same mold as Faker, who came with a full power sword. And I say that because if I take this out of Skeletor's hand, you can put this in his hand, and as you can see, the thumb does not ride up on this piece here like it did with figures like Prince Adam and Keldor, who had a shorter handle on this version of the Power Sword. So Mattel went and course corrected a bit and gave us a longer handle on this full Power Sword so it doesn't just flop out of figures' hands. So that's nice. The unfortunate thing is, because this Power Sword is a full one and not a half one, it doesn't exactly sheathe on the back as flush as the half sword, but you can get it to work for the most part. Just stretches out the armor more so than the half sword. That said, giving him his Havoc staff back, which is pretty much the same. And as far as articulation goes, I'm not going to go over it in this video. It's origins, you know exactly what you're getting here. Although I will say, because of the 2000X figure's legs, the knees are heavily ratcheted. I will say the elbows are at least ratcheted in a sense. They do feel like they have some detents in there, but the legs he came with were just unforgivably loose. I'm going to have to maybe grab a second 2000X Skeletor and do a swap, or use some Kikis on them or something, because they are really loose. But bringing in the He-Man, here he is alongside his Wave 1 counterpart with the head swap from the Battle Armor He-Man, and as you can see, pretty much the same thing. They're exactly the same, albeit I think the vintage head one is a little bit more vibrant than the first release. The first release had a very, Dutch boy haircut going on and a sort of derpy looking face, which that's the head I use on Prince Adam because I think it fits better with that figure. I always like the vintage head on this version of He-Man the most. And, of course, the other thing is the Power Swords, which fit very snug into this back harness. If you kind of push them a little bit, you can get the hilt to kind of clip onto that so it doesn't just fall out. Sending him off to the side once more. This He-Man, of course, coming on the 40th anniversary card, has the really tight, detented, ratcheted elbows and knees. You can hear it when I move the figure around. Like, he's got the Wondar body, essentially, which is, of course, the same as the He-Man body, but this guy has really, really, really tight joints, which I like. And it's unfortunate that I got Skeletor on the older card, because if I got him on the 40th card, well, then we'd have no problem. So, buyer beware. I can't guarantee you're going to get one over the other. All I know is that my Skeletor's knees were relatively loose, and my He-Man is rock solid. So, probably from now on, this is going to be the He-Man I use for comparison, so long as he's within arm's length. And this Skeletor, once I get him fixed and equipped with some better legs, I mean, it's got the 2000X ones now, but those are going to go back on my 2000X figure, I assure you. Once I get him some better knees, I will definitely probably just use this one for comparisons. That said, speaking of comparisons, we might as well do this just to keep the trend going. Here they are with 11 Spawn and Brother Mandibilith from Mythic Legions. And of course, since they are just Origins figures, they are dwarfed by these two. So I'm getting them out of frame. They already were out of frame, but way out of frame, so you can't see them anymore. Final thoughts. If you're a sucker like me, or if you missed out on the first releases of these two, then definitely pick these up. They do have the vintage heads, so they're very much, I think, an improvement over the first releases. And you also get the full Power Swords, which I kind of prefer to the half and half, although if you are a completionist, you do need those swords. And I believe the Battle Armor figures come with those. So if you can still get those and you're content with just having these and you don't want the first releases, then by all means, have at it. But if you are a mint on card collector and you gotta have them all, well then you gotta get these guys on both that I think it was Wave 5 card, and then Wave, is it 9 that had Mantenna, or was it Wave 10? I think it's Wave 9 that had Mantenna and Pighead in those. So, you're kind of screwed and crazy, because while I am kind of a nut for buying technically 2 figures I already had, they at least had different swords, so that kind of makes up for it. If you're a carded collector and you gotta have them all on card, well then you gotta have the 40th versions of these, you gotta have the other versions of these, and of course the first releases, which I don't think go for a lot now, but I could be wrong. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of short and sweet review, at least I hope it was. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to do all the YouTube rigmarole, as well as hit me up over on Instagram at Overlord Productions. If you ever want to talk toys or anything in particular, that's the #1 best way to get a hold of yours truly. But as always, keep the comments civil. The world sucks enough as it is, especially when we still got that lingering case of loose knees in this line. Thankfully, that seems to be a thing of the past, but some of the ones I've got recently, they've been a little bit loosey-goosey, not gonna lie. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later.